But in 2017, Republicans hold a majority in the Senate. And unless GOP senators defect from their party, these are the people who will be running the government. I'm joined now by Senator Brian Schatz. He's Democrat from Hawaii. Senator, there are various opinions about how senators should take their role of advice and consent. There are some who believe the president should have constitutionally and as a matter of principle wide latitude in selecting the people in his administration. Others who are much more willing to vote no. Where is your personal feeling on this?
Well, I think a president ought to have his or her cabinet. I certainly think that they ought to be able to assemble their team, but there ought to be exceptions. And I think for me, those exceptions come with Pruitt, come with Betsy DeVos, and come with Tom Price. And the reason for all three of them, I think, not being qualified for these cabinet positions is that they are unique. They are being asked to lead agencies that they want to dismantle. Tom Price wants to shred the social safety net. It's not just that he wants to undo Obamacare. He actually wants to block grant Medicaid. He didn't vote for the children's health insurance program. This is a person who has made a career out of systematically dismantling the social safety net. And I know, Chris, you've been a real climate over the many, many years. Scott Pruitt is not qualified to lead the EPA. There's just never been a person, even on the Republican side, who's been an EPA nominee who wants to do such violence to the basic mission of the EPA.
So I want to understand you correctly, Senator. Are you, as of now, a no on all three of those?
I'm a no on all three of those. And Betsy DeVos, oh boy, that was a rough performance last night to watch. And you know, I was talking with a friend of mine who's not in politics. That really went viral all over the internet. Millions and millions of views. Of a health, education, labor, and pensions meeting. Something is happening across the country, and unfortunately, it's not late October of last year, but rather now, where people are starting to realize that a lot of these nominees are going to do violence to the agencies that they want to run. We have a nominee for the Education Department who basically will not commit to public education, who doesn't understand the law at its most basic level, and won't commit to not privatizing public education.
So you're a no on all those three. I mean, I remember hearing early reports Democrats were going to choose one or two to focus their fire against. Obviously, civil rights groups feel very strongly about Jeff Sessions, although it is his colleagues who will be voting. That's going to be a tough vote for Democrats to win. There are also concerns about Mnuchin. I mean, what I'm hearing from you is, do you feel it is the temperature of the Democratic caucus that opposition is not politically problematic for them?
I think you're exactly right. I think we understand that we're the Fighting 48. We are the leaders of the Democratic Party nationally, and people expect us to fight. Look, they also expect us to allow a president to stand up a government. So I anticipate this week Secretary nominee Mattis and Secretary nominee Kelly will likely get a vote later on this week or early next week. We want that national security team in place, because we want rational, sane adults in the room in case something happens right away where the new commander-in-chief has to deal with it. But there are a couple, not just a couple, probably 3 to 6 nominees that I think a lot of us are going to have an extremely hard time swallowing.
So you just said you're the Fighting 48, 48 being the key number there, which is the number of Democrats. You need 2 or 3 votes. You need 3 votes to defect. And do you have any sense that there's anything that any of these nominees could do or say, whether in their performance in the hearing or what's turned up in vetting, that would lose them those 3 votes?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question, but I know a lot of people have been noticing that many of the sort of mini scandals that have popped up and this issue with Mr. Price and a stock trade, lesser things have sunk greater nominees in the past. So we're trying to figure out sort of what is the new political calculation. Is there nothing that would cause a Republican to defy the president-elect? Are there no circumstances where we're going to get any bipartisan cooperation from the Republicans? Because, look, I have private conversations with members of the Senate on the GOP side who tell me they're rational on climate, and yet none of them have popped their head up and said that they can't vote for a climate denier for the EPA. So we're going to need some profiles and courage. We don't need a dozen of them. We only need 2 or 3 in order to make a strong statement on one or several of these nominees. Because
courage in the Senate usually has to do with whether people are calling in as constituents or making themselves known as voters. Senator Brian Schatz, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.